This presentation is brought to you by Darkshore Capital, crafting capital management solutions for your world. Today is October 12th, 2020, and in this week in Goldmaking, I'd like to talk about the Weekly Standup. Now, what is this? Some of you are probably familiar with the concept of a stand-up meeting. It's a meeting that occurs on a regular basis in professional settings where a group is working on projects, doing things that people do at work. And effectively, what you want to do is have everyone in your team go around in a circle and say three things as briefly as possible. What have you been up to? What are you planning to do? And is there anything giving you trouble? I'd like to apply this idea to these weekly presentations as well. I'm going to ask all of you, viewers and listeners, to leave a comment on the video, message me on Twitter with what have you been doing in Goldmaking? What are you planning to do in the next week? And is there anything giving you any trouble? For me, what I've been up to in the past week, I've been working on my trade skill master settings, groups and operations. I recently started fresh, deleted everything, so I do have a lot of work to do getting that back up to speed. Other things that I've been working on include evergreen gold making methods, particularly around crafting transmog and all the other various things associated with that, which, is gathering things, getting recipes for characters, so on and so forth. For the next week, I'm planning to explore a little bit more in some outland gold making methods. I've had a bit of inspiration there and a bit of return to nostalgia from back in the Burning Crusade. So I'm going to explore that and see what comes out of it. I'm also going to continue on with the evergreen crafting stuff, more crafting transmog, more gathering recipes, more gathering materials. One thing that is giving me trouble, and I'm sure some of you have run into this as well, the TSM base group, which is actually a fantastic new functionality that's been added recently to Trade Skill Master. However, it doesn't quite support item variations in the way that would be useful to me. When I did ask about this in the Trade Skill Master Discord, the answer given was, we don't want to give that much power to the base group because of the dangers it might pose, especially to newer users, newer players. Because if you toggle on ignore item variations for a base group and then go post everything on the auction house, well, there are some items where the difference in value does matter, and it could lead to losing out on a lot of gold. I get that. I do wish that there was a way somewhere, maybe buried deep in the settings, for advanced users to turn it on, because it would help me out a lot, and I'm sure it would help out others a lot as well. We're going to move on to the market update for the week. As you can see here are the numbers. New month for October, so the week and the month to date are going to be about the same. No new additions, no new subtractions as of this week. With the pre-patch coming, obviously that's going to have to be shaken up quite a bit. As we'll talk about a little bit later, things like Osmanite ore probably aren't going to be as relevant anymore, since Uncanny Gear maybe not such a great gold maker in the near future. Activision Blizzard pretty flat as well for the past week. Nothing to say about that there. I'd also like to introduce another new recurring slide that's going to be in these presentations. My bullish and bearish stances on things. So if you are not familiar with the terms bullish or bearish, in the stock market, if a stock is bullish, if you are bullish on a stock, it means that you think it's going to increase in price. And of course, on the other side, if you are bearish on a stock, you think that it's going to decrease in price. So for this, I'm bullish on things like evergreen gold making, which we'll go into a little bit more detail, and ghost iron ore. So in my mind, I see the pre-patch and Shadowlands expansion as times of volatility, times of uncertainty. And in those times, there's a lot of opportunity to be had for making gold, and also for losing it. If you make a call, make a decision, and it doesn't pay off and you lose a bunch of money. Well, yeah, that could happen. Things like crafted transmog, which I've been focusing on, raw gold farms, they may not be as high a return on investment of your time, but you can know more reliably what you're going to get out of them. And I'm not saying that you should do one or the other. In fact, you should probably do both, but having access to things that are consistently good in this time is, I think, going to be very valuable. and obviously going to make you gold. Ghost iron ore sort of falls into this category as well. However, I have noticed over the past week that the volume on ghost iron ore and ghost iron ore derivatives, like the bars and trillium things, etc., have been seeing a lot of trade volume. It seems like a lot of people are buying, flipping, trading, selling, all manner of things with ghost iron ore. And when there's a lot of turnover, there's a lot of opportunity for gold making. For example, on my Alliance server, I noticed that just simply buying the ores and smelting them has a pretty hefty profit margin right now. And that's usually the case for ghost iron ore because people need a ton of it. And so there is a premium for buying the bars, but it is a little bit more pronounced than usual right now. I'm currently bearish on uncanny gear. As I mentioned earlier, I think that it's probably not going to be as useful once the pre-patch hits, and therefore the price probably won't be as great. It'll gradually transition into the realm of crafted transmog versus what it has been for the past few months during the 8.3 patch as excellent starter gear. By the same token, BFA materials, with the close of the expansion, the materials probably aren't going to be as useful for many people. Typically what does happen is the individual materials for an expansion will increase in price. However, the volume at which they are gathered and sold and used goes way down. And that's just not as good for gold making. Do a little bit of a news section here. So Activision Blizzard closing the offices in Versailles, France. Not really too much to say on this as far as gold making goes. I do think it is important and relevant to keep an eye on what the company that actually makes this game does. There's a lot of opinions that go around the internet about Activision Blizzard, as I'm sure you're well aware of. But from purely just like a financial standpoint, from a gold making standpoint, I think it's just important to be in the know about things, both in the game and surrounding them. So this is a pretty big deal. Closing an office is not something that happens every day, and certainly noteworthy. I'll let you draw your own conclusions as to what it means and form your own opinions, however. Another piece of news, this isn't anything new, but something that's new to me, since I'm getting back into the gold making game. The Blizzard API and subsequently the Kruthny Recipes webpage, which I have championed many times in the past, are not working currently. One because of the other, of course. It's very unfortunate because, as anyone who has listened to or watched any of my previous videos about that website, it's probably my favorite website. It's great. It's great for crafted transmog. It's an invaluable resource. There was a brief exchange between Want to Buy Gold and Kruthny on Twitter. It seems like there's some hope for it coming back in the near future. So I'm looking forward to that. And I would encourage anyone who also finds value in that to give some encouragement, financially or otherwise, to those involved. Actually, thinking back on it now, I think the Blizzard API is back. It's just a matter of getting the website back up and running, which of course is being offered completely free, and we are all so gosh darn appreciative of it. Yeah, again, can't say enough about how much I like that website. Next piece of news, Warlords of Draenor. Apparently, it's very hot right now. What I'm surmising is the bit of news, rumor, I'm going to call it a rumor, that some of the crafted Warlords of Draenor pieces were going to be unobtainable after the pre-patch hit. I believe that has since been fixed from Blizzard's standpoint. You will still have access to all these pieces. Either way, it certainly caused a frenzy of people doing Warlords of Draenor things. Streamers I've been watching, content I've been keeping track of, it seems like garrisons are making a comeback somehow. Maybe they never left. Maybe that's just been a secret gold making thing that I haven't known about for a while. But yeah, that's all I've really got to say about that. I don't have much more detail other than the fact that it's happening. So there's probably something there for inquiring minds who may want to know. Last piece of news, obviously the pre-patch, probably by the time you're watching or listening to this, it has probably hit. Happy for the pre-patch. I'm glad to be able to play some alts now without having to worry about corruptions. I am very sad that I will no longer be able to triple jump on my warrior. Short Q&A for today. First question, 33 months of subscription or amount? Well, for me, the answer is obvious if you watched or listened to the previous video. I chose the mount. 33 months of a subscription. That's effectively how many WoW tokens you could buy for 5 million gold on North American realms. It'll be a little bit less, of course, for the Europeans, since their token is more expensive. To me, that mount is timeless. And subscriptions, not so timeless. It's more ephemeral. It's more ethereal. And gosh darn it, having an auction house at your fingertips is so convenient. I'm actually very interested to see how this pans out in the actual Shadowlands. This is probably something we'll be discussing in a presentation at a later date before the Shadowlands comes out. But I think it's going to have an effect because I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of Brutosaurs riding around recently. A lot more than usual. Maybe it's just because I have one now, I'm paying more attention. But it seems like there's a lot. I think enough to affect how the economy fleshes out in the early game of an expansion. Right? There's a very real disadvantage, I suppose, to early game economy play in that, you know, you don't have access to an auction house while you're out leveling. Try to make a mad dash for the max level. But if you can just hop on your Brutosaur as you're riding to the next quest hub and list a few things on the auction house or buy things on the auction house, I don't know. I think it's going to be very interesting to watch. I'm going to do some thinking on it, and we'll talk about it more in a future presentation. Second question. I plan to move realms/factions. What should I buy before moving? It's a fantastic question, and there is no one answer. The answer is you need to go to the Undermine Journal. You need to look up both of the realms you're going to and coming from. And my recommendation is to target things that you know are going to be traded in high volume, because the last thing you want to do is buy a bunch of stuff, have a bunch of gold invested in an asset that turns out to be illiquid, because then you're stuck trying to sell it over the next couple of years. And I think that's kind of not maybe what this question is asking. They just want to make a little bit extra money on the move. So normally I would suggest looking at current content materials, because those are typically pretty easy to get rid of and to turn into gold. However, given the fact that pre-patch is hitting right now, that might be something to avoid, given my previous commentary on BFA materials. Ghost Iron Ore might be a good thing to look at. Mounts, pets. Well, pets aren't as appealing since you can already cross-realm them. But, you know, things that are tried and true gold makers, things that people are always going to want. Don't be wasting your time with, you know, random pieces of green transmog that only sell for 100 gold on your source server, but 200 gold on the server you're going to. That's not worth your time. I've done this a few times with some varying success. Yeah, and it's a nice way to, you know, offset the cost of a transfer by at least a little bit. So that's going to wrap it up for the week. I'd like to thank everyone for watching and listening. Again, my name is Andrew, and this has been a presentation of Darkshore Capital. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, feedback, please feel free to reach out to me. You can leave a comment on the YouTube video. You can find me on Twitter at darkshorecap, or you can send me an email, darkshorecapital@gmail.com. Again, this has been a presentation of Darkshore Capital. Thank you, and happy gold making.